So I was not crazy about the DeShaun Foster hire at UCLA. I think they were in a pretty tough predicament. Chip Kelly left at a rather inopportune time where didn't put together a great recruiting class and then just kind of left, and the coaching carousel had already played itself out. So were there a lot of options available? No. DeShaun Foster felt like the safe, easy UCLA guy, hire, wants to be there and all this sort of rah-rah stuff. And that's great. That's good and fine. Guy has not been a coordinator, but certainly UCLA felt like he was capable, and he's going to have the opportunity to prove me wrong. I do not think UCLA is set up in the short term for success. DeShaun Foster does not see him as a transition coach, which is kind of how I viewed the hire. Like, that feels like a hire that's bound to, flame out in 2 to 3 years after they, maybe build up a recruiting base a little bit or reestablish their identity or sort things out in the athletic department. And then they go make a hire that they'd actually want to pursue. But I think DeShaun Foster has been doing a couple of really nice things, and I want to give him credit for that. And the first thing I want to talk about is the recruiting. Because when you go to a place that has not reached its recruiting potential or even sniffed it for a long time, because Chip Kelly, not a big recruiter, not something that he does. He brings in portal guys. Chip Kelly, you look at his transfer portal classes, brought in some impact dudes, had highly rated classes. From the high school ranks, did not do enough. And guess what? I think it's a really good example of how the transfer portal can do things for you, but it can't do everything for you. You have to have a core team. You have to have a foundation that is built upon your high school recruiting classes. And I think DeShaun Foster, to his credit, is working to change that narrative at UCLA. They've got 5 commits right now, and I'm going to talk about the quarterback move they made in just a moment as well. But they have 5 commits in their class of 2025. 3 of them are blue chip guys, one of whom in particular is a really impressive poll that is going to require further recruiting, but I still think it is noteworthy that the Bruins were able to get Carson Cox, running back from Oak Hills High School in Hesperia, California. And by the way, of the 5 commits for UCLA in the 2025 cycle right now, 4 of them are from the state of California. Plenty of talent in the backyard. You just got to go out and recruit these guys. And Cox is someone who, frankly, when I watch this film, can make an impact as a true freshman. You talk about balance, fluidity, and power. He has got that unique combination. And DeShaun Foster, remember, was a running back himself. And Cox is one of the most highly sought after running backs on the West Coast. And for UCLA to have his verbal commitment right now is a really, really good sign for the Bruins. Now, there is still going to be more to this recruitment because he has got an official visit that happened just a couple of days ago, actually, to SMU. He has another one scheduled for Kansas on June 7th. So other schools are still going to try to get him, and understandably so, because he's a guy who, as I said, can make a really, I think, immediate impact. He's the number 25 running back in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, and a 4-star recruit. So that's the sort of move I look at and go, hey, that's really good. And I liken this a little bit. We haven't seen the full class, of course, for DeShaun Foster. But when Jedd Fisch took over at Arizona, he took over an abject mess. They had lost 12 consecutive games when he accepted the job. And in his first year, they went 1-11. They went 1-11. UCLA could have a year like that. And then after they went 1-11, Jedd Fisch pulled in a top 25 high school recruiting class. And it got my attention. Because I went, wait a minute. Arizona just out-recruited Blue Bloods with coaches making $6-7 million a year. I think they might have been even number 17 if memory serves. But they outperformed. It might have ended at 22. I'd have to go back and double check. But regardless, it was a top 25 class, and it caught my attention. So when you go somewhere in which, as a head coach, and you're taking over a difficult spot, and UCLA is not the easiest job in the world, there's no doubt about it. They are a basketball school. It sometimes feels like they don't have the necessary commitment and buy-in from the administration. Maybe DeShaun Foster can change that. They haven't recruited the way that they're capable of. And it just feels like they have never really hit their ceiling. Well, first, you got to be able to bring in players. And DeShaun Foster is trying to show that he can do that. And I think the 2025 class is off to a good start. The other move I like that he made was bringing in Demaricus Davis from Washington. So this is a guy who has got a really tall frame, has got plenty of potential, 4-star quarterback, and he comes over from Washington, where he never really played because Kalen DeBoer was there. Kalen DeBoer left. He stuck it out with Jed Fish. He decides, no, I'm going in the portal. And where does Davis get to go? To UCLA. I'm not promising Bruin fans this guy's going to be the quarterback of the future. What I do think is that he's in a really ideal spot for a young quarterback because he's got a veteran in front of him. He's got a hungry head coach, and he might be able to play really early in his career and start to learn college football and make freshman mistakes without the big stakes, because I have no expectations for UCLA. And I don't think Bruins fans should have big expectations for UCLA this year. Their win total in the Big Ten is 5.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. I take the under on that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I in no way think UCLA is a bowl team this year with the players that they lost from a season ago, but they bring back Ethan Garbers at quarterback, who had his moments. He was the starter, then Dante Moore was the starter, then they went back to Ethan Garbers, and Garbers can be good, can be capable, not a high-level guy, but he's been around college football, and he can show Demaricus Davis the ropes. And if Ethan Garbers struggles, what do you have to lose? I think if you're DeShaun Foster, you have to have an understanding with your athletic director, your administration, your fans, and your donors that, look, this is going to be a process to build, and I want to build this up. And here are the recruiting wins, and here are the players that we're bringing in now, and the players we can bring in the future. We got to take our lumps this year, though. We got to let some young guys play to build for the future. UCLA shouldn't try and accomplish things for this season. They should try and build the way Jonathan Smith did at Oregon State once upon a time. They went 2-10 in his first year. By the last year, they were expecting a 10-2 season. It can take time. And I think that Demaricus Davis has got that sort of potential. And maybe he's the guy. Maybe it clicks for him. Maybe it doesn't. But another note on the recruiting front. They're trending for Madani Amaleava. Yeah, Nico's younger brother, 4-star quarterback recruit. And what do you know? UCLA is in the mix. So I think those are all really, really positive signs for a guy who I think has been dealt a tough hand, but might not be the long-term hire, but is starting to make the moves in which you got to say, well, he's certainly giving it his best shot. He's not mailing it in. And he's a UCLA guy. So that's part of the reason I think that they hired him, is they wanted someone who wanted to be full-throated about UCLA and say, you know what? Let's put our foot on the gas. Let's see what we can make of this. So I'm curious to see if Demaricus Davis plays at all this year for UCLA, because I don't expect them to be good. If their season goes south quickly, I think you got to put the freshman in and say, look, let's see if we can develop him, because we've seen what Ethan Garbers can be, and that's fine and all. And if we're trying to make a bowl game, yeah, he'd be our guy. But if we're not trying to make a bowl, if we start 1-4, 2-5, might just be time to see what the freshman has got, let him develop, and see if that can be a foundational piece for the future and looking forward. So I give credit where credit is due, and it absolutely is due for UCLA. I think they're going to be in for a rough season. But you keep recruiting the way that DeShaun Foster is right now, you can flip the narrative. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.